Let's sew the Ali Sweatshirt by Sew DIY. In this video, I'm sewing View A, the crew neck version with the kangaroo pocket. This sweatshirt has an oversized fit and drop shoulders with many seams perfect for color blocking. Join me in a quick remnant-friendly project. Let's get started. Place your yoke pieces right sides together along the center back seams and pin in place. Sew the center back seam with a 1/2-inch seam allowance. I'm going to be using a narrow zigzag stitch. Then I'm going to finish the outer raw edges in a separate set of stitches using a wider zigzag. Then press that seam allowance to one side. Place your sleeves right sides together along the center notched seam and pin. Sew the center seam with a 1/2-inch seam allowance, finish the raw edges and press to one side, repeating for both sleeve sets. To make it so that your sleeves mirror each other, press one seam to the left and your opposite sleeve seam to the right. Optionally, for each of the seams that we just sewed, for the sleeves and for the yoke, you can choose to top stitch from the right side, catching that seam allowance in your stitches, stitching about 1/4 inch away from the original seam line. Fold each of your pocket bands in half, wrong sides together, and give them a press. Pin each of the bands to the curved edges of the kangaroo pocket, right sides together, aligning the raw edges. Stretch the band to fit the curved edge, careful not to stretch the pocket. Sew both seams with a 1/2-inch seam allowance, press the seams toward the pocket and top stitch if desired. Finish the top and side raw edges in your preferred method. Press the side and bottom edges to the wrong side by 1/2 inch. Here is the right side of my front bodice piece. We're going to place the wrong side of the pocket onto the bottom section of the front piece. Align the notches on the bottom and pin in place, also pinning along the top and the sides. For the side and top edges, I'm going to edge stitch in place. And along the bottom, use basting stitches to secure the raw edges together. At the top and bottom of the pocket opening, back stitch to secure. Place the yoke and the back piece right sides together and pin the top edge. Sew with a 1/2-inch seam allowance, finish the raw edges and press the seam down toward the bottom. Place the front and back bodice pieces right sides together, aligning the shoulder seams and notches and pin in place. Sew these seams with a 1/2-inch seam allowance, finish the raw edges and press them toward the back of the garment. Fold the neckband in half, right sides together, aligning the short edges. I'm going to sew with a 1/2-inch seam allowance and press the seam open. Now that I've sewn the short edges, I'll fold the piece again, wrong sides together, and give that a good press. Mark the quarter points along the raw edges of the neckband. Also mark the quarter points of the neckline. Place the neckband and the neckline right sides together and pin in place at the quarter points. Now that I have that pinned in place, I'm going to sew the neckband to the neckline with a 3/8-inch seam allowance. Pull the neckband slightly to fit between each point. If you're finding that the neckband and neckline are too close in measurement, not allowing for much stretch of the neckband, see the pattern instructions for tips on how to adjust the fit. With the seam allowance of the neckline pressed away from the neckband, top stitch underneath the main seam line all the way around. Here are my front and back pieces opened out away from each other so that the yoke is flat. Place your sleeves right sides together with each armhole so that the sleeve seams that we pressed earlier are oriented toward the back. Pin in place, repeating for both sleeves. Sew both sleeves in place with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, finish the raw edges, and press the seams toward the sleeves. With your front and back pieces right sides together as well as their sleeves, pin the entire side seam and underarm seam. Repeating on both sides. Sew from the bottom of the sleeve across the underarm seam to the bottom of the garment in one continuous stitch with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Finish the raw edges and press them toward the back of the garment. Repeat for both sides. Here's my hemband and both of the cuff pieces. I'm going to fold the hemband in half, right sides together, aligning the short edges and pin in place. Then fold each of the cuff pieces in half, right sides together, aligning the notches and pin in place. Sew each seam with a 1/2 inch seam allowance and press the seams open. Then we can fold each of these pieces in half, this time wrong sides together, and give them a press. Then mark the quarter points of each piece along the raw edges just as we did for the neckband. I'm going to place the seam of the hemband at one of the side seams, right sides together, and pin in place. Then I'll continue pinning the hemband in place, aligning the quarter points. I'll do the same to attach both of my cuffs. Sew each seam all the way around with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. When you're done, press the seams upward and top stitch if preferred. Now the sweatshirt is complete. Thank you for watching this sew along. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future sewing tutorials, and I'll see you in the next video.